Hello everyone, this is Randy I. I am an employment lawyer here in Canada. It's March 5th, 2025. I'm going to provide an update on the tariff situation. As you may know, on March 4th, yesterday, 25% tariffs were introduced by the United States, implemented on a number of Canadian imports, and Canada responded with retaliatory tariffs on a range of American goods and products and imports. So we are in the middle of a trade war. From the employment law perspective, my firm received a number of phone calls yesterday from people who've been let go and who were fired, and a large number of people have stated that the reason that they were terminated or laid off was in some way directly or indirectly related to the tariffs, but more specifically the economic uncertainty, not just the tariffs themselves, but the uncertain economic situation between Canada and the US. The US is our largest trading partner and has been historically for many, many years. We do so much business with the US. There's a lot of integration of our respective economies. So this uncertainty, this decoupling to an extent between the US and the Canadian economies has created so much uncertainty for business owners, for corporations, both American and Canadian corporations. And as a result, a lot of people are being let go. And this is, again, affecting the entire spectrum of the labor market. President Trump had, he delivered a speech last night to Congress, to both Republicans and Democrats. And in his speech, he talked about tariffs, and he specifically mentioned as well that there will be reciprocal tariffs in response to any retaliatory tariffs, meaning that, for example, I would assume that if Canada introduced 25% tariffs on imports going into, imports from the United States going into Canada, then Trump would increase the tariffs to perhaps 50% on imports going from Canada to the United States. And presumably the Canadian government would then increase our tariffs to 50%, and this could escalate completely out of control. It could get crazy from there, right? If we're looking at 50%, 75%, 100% tariffs, then in that particular scenario, which I hope doesn't come to pass, but in that particular scenario, large amounts of trade would just cease altogether. So Trump did mention these reciprocal tariffs, which understandably gives Canadians a lot of concern. My other concern really for the Canadian economy and the labor market is how these tariffs are implemented and who recoups the money, if you will, from these tariffs, right? So the way that works, it's not that companies are slapping a 25% price increase on their goods and products. What's happening is that our respective governments, the Canadian and American governments, they're putting essentially what you can see as a tax on these products of, at the moment, 25%. So the tax is actually being collected by the government, right? By the American and Canadian governments respectively, which means that then it's up to the government to do something meaningful with that extra tax revenue. Ideally, it really should go towards helping those individuals and businesses affected by the trade war. But given the historic record of the Canadian government, especially in recent years, I have my own personal doubts that the money will go to the right place, that it will be implemented in the right way. So the people who are suffering, they may not see any of, or see very little benefit from any of the retaliatory tariffs. I hope that makes sense, right? And if I were to explain it again for clarity, if we, as the Canadian government, are saying, here's a 25% retaliatory tariff on American products, then that money flows to the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. That's money that goes into the Canadian tax coffers. Then it's supposed to ideally be redistributed to the Canadian people in some way. But my fear, again, is that it will not be redistributed in the most efficient or effective way to help those people who are most affected by the tariffs. I fear that the government, with this extra tax revenue, may drop the ball on this. That's my personal opinion. The Canadian government is essentially especially in recent years, they have not had the best record. Many Canadians are not very happy with their government right now. So those are my thoughts. This is again a continuous update. Things are changing. There's some reports from different news outlets that the Canadian government and the American government will be entering into some talks, perhaps to de-escalate. We don't know what the details are at the moment. Things are happening live. There are many developing news stories. So this is the update as of early afternoon, March 5th. I will continue to update you on the effects of the tariffs on the Canadian labor market and on the economy at large. In the meantime, hang in there. I know it's a tough time for many Canadians, but hang in there and we will all get through this together. I will see you in the next video.